Alright, this is to all my Ecodiesel guys. So I cleaned the ports on my Ecodiesel. I used a sandblasting routine. I bought this walnut shells off Amazon, medium grit. It was like 20 bucks for 5 pounds of it or something. You don't have to get anything fancy, just walnut shells. I had to modify my gun, my sandblasting gun. Let's see if I can find it here for you. Here it is. Okay, so it's your basic gun. I took a barb fitting. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a regular barb fitting, and I flared this tube, and I just kind of, taped it at the end, and it worked fine. You don't have to go anything fancy. I cut some threads into this with whatever the closest thread was to this barb. I don't think it was the right thread, but it worked enough. You just got to get a few turns into it just for it to hold on long enough for you to do this, and just use some 1/4 inch copper tubing. Anyway, you need something to close that port as you're blasting it. Let's see, where's my little port closer thing? I got it off a fella that designed it in a 3D program. Where is it? Okay, so it's like basically, it has like a little, like there's a small and a big port, and I use the small port for everything because the ports are actually different sizes. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a smaller one and a larger one. I use a small one for everything, but you need some kind of adapter to get a vacuum cleaner on it, because this, you gotta shoot a lot of walnuts in there. This wasn't actually that great of a tool. I would really prefer it if it was more angled. I know the BMW ones are more angled, and you could even use something that doesn't fit into the port so well, but that just kind of fits over the port and has a hole in it to attach to the vacuum cleaner. Honestly, I would have liked a slightly bigger hole so I can move my nozzle around and really get to all the sides of the port. It's pretty challenging to do, but you also want to get some kind of switch onto the starter. Just feed positive to your solenoid, so you can turn the engine with a push of a button, so you can see the valves close. You got to make sure the valves are closed whenever you do this job. Yeah, so I got all the valves cleaned. They weren't that dirty. Now what I'm doing is I'm replacing this line right here, and I got the Dorman part, which has a stainless steel section to replace the rubber here. Mine actually looks like it's in really good shape, and I could probably go another 200,000 miles. I don't know why these things fail, but mine looks like it's in perfect shape. But I've already got the part. I'm in here. I'm gonna replace it, and the way to do that, so here's the trick. The hard part is this heat shield, okay? You've got to undo that banjo nut behind this line, okay? This is the turbo feed line for the oil. You're replacing the water feed line, okay? The water feed line is underneath the turbo feed line. So you got to get this heat shield out of the way, and you got to get this line out of the way. Canon has it that you remove that bolt, and this can move over just enough to get to that bolt behind it, and you can cut this heat shield and kind of bend it out of the way, because to remove the heat shield you have to remove the whole entire EGR cooler, and I'm not about to do all that. So I tried using my multi-tool here. Don't bother. That's made of steel. This is actually steel, not aluminum. I destroyed my multi-tool bit. You have to use a side grinder, like a Dremel tool or something. So I'm gonna whip that out and cut that. But that's what it takes to replace the manifold, or yeah, in my case I'm replacing the manifold in the motor because I was getting codes for the swirl valves. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you have to disconnect and move the wire harness over. remove the fuel lines and the fuel rails. For the fuel rails, I'm actually not going to reuse those same bolts that they used. They used those like T40 hex bolts. I'm going to put in some regular hex bolts, just because you can get a wrench on those and you can twist them out much easier. I had a hell of a time. I had to create a special tool to get those suckers out. You see, I had to like sacrifice a T40 and wedge it into my little wrench here. I've actually welded a couple of these and I broke them, but this time it worked. But it was extremely hard to get the rails out. That's a special tool that I had to make. God, I hope I never... Well, if I have to do this again, it'll be much easier because I'll have regular hex bolts on there and you could just, you know, turn them out with a wrench because they're at an angle and the manifold's so close you really can't get a ratchet or anything on, and you know, any kind of T40 anything in there. So that's a hint that I would recommend to all you guys. I hope you don't have to do this, but if you do, hopefully this gives you a little bit of a hint as to what you're getting into and how to do it a little easier.